Sri Modi, the founder chairman of Pharmexcil, Mr. Kinney, Mr. Bangaru Rajan, other dignitaries, friends, ladies and gentlemen. We have assembled here today to discuss the opportunity, the possibilities and probabilities of enhancing India's exports from $15 billion to $50 billion. It's a very ambitious projection. And we have gathered here at a time when the news from the external sector is not all that comfortable. The picture is not all that rosy. And I would say it's an understatement. The fact is that we are almost in a kind of a dire straits. It is unprecedented that for almost a year or so, there has been a constant, continuous and consistent decline in India's exports. Decline on a trot. So this is really unprecedented. Now, there are analysts and economists, they may point out maybe this is due to infrastructural deficiencies that we have, the higher transaction costs we have, the higher cost of capital that we have. There are a lot of, cost disabilities that are built into our system. But the fact is that all these structural deficiencies that we have and cost disabilities, these have been there since ages. And we have learned to live with this. So this crisis that we are seeing today is not on account of that. It is something else. It is the contraction of global demand, the so-called global depression. And that is something that is real. And there are a couple of other factors like stated overvaluation of Indian currency, the depreciation of Chinese currency, so on and so forth. Well, the December data was that almost 30 out of 30 sectors, almost 20 sectors from India, they reported decline in outward shipments. And there are very few sectors that have been able to hold out, like textiles, tea, plastics, and more importantly, and I believe most importantly, drug and pharma sector. And for this exemplary performance of drug and pharma sector, I believe Pharmexcil and this sector deserves a big round of applause. Friends, it is not for the first time that we are in for a crisis. we have seen many. If you recall, in 2012-13, I think we were in a deep current account deficit crisis, and the current account deficit had almost zoomed to 4.8 to 5% of India's GDP. And then government was almost, kind of constrained and forced to take measures in consultation with the RBI to arrest the decline of gold and other non-productive import. And that did work well, and CAD was controlled to 2.2% of GDP. So we have done it earlier. It's not that we are not in a situation to face the crisis. And I am one, I belong to a school which doesn't believe that imports are necessarily bad. Imports are not necessarily bad. In fact, if you look at the import profile of most of the developed nations, you will find that they run a huge trade deficit. But the difference is the basket of their import bill, the constituent and the constitution of their import. They generally import lots of capital goods and raw material which revive their economy, which kickstart their manufacturing. Unlike India, where we indulge in a lot of unproductive import like gold. Our country, for reasons best known to us only, has a strange obsession and fetish for that yellow metal called gold. For last so many years, we have been importing almost 1,000 tons of gold almost every year. And we are the largest importer of gold. Only I think in 2012-13, probably China has been able to pay us through. Reason being that probably the custom duty on gold had been high, and there were a lot of smuggling. So the gold import, the official data did not reflect the actual import of gold. Then, you know, almost 93–94% of our hydrocarbon requirement is made through import. We are the largest importer of arms and ammunition. Now, I think that you would recall that very recently only, Honorable Defense Minister, Mr. Manohar Parrikar, he pulled up a whole lot of mandarins in Defense Ministry, and particularly chiefs of ordnance factory boards, for not doing what they ought to have done. We have so many ordnance factories, we have DRDO, but what has happened? We have not been able to indigenize, manufacturing of arms and ammunition. China was the second largest importer of arms and ammunition, but Chinese have their own knack of bouncing back, and within no time, they are now the 7th largest exporter of arms and ammunition. So we have a lot of drainage on unproductive import, and that is something that we need to arrest. Now government has done its bit, and government has come out with a wonderful scheme called Gold Monetization Scheme and Gold Bond Scheme, which will go a long way in arresting the surge in gold import, because the stock of gold that we have in the economy, probably that will be recycled. The other measures we are taking, like if you follow the news, will find that in the Make of India initiative by the Honorable Prime Minister, Mr. Narendra Modi, defense production, indigenizing defense production is one of the priority areas. So we will have to strike balance somewhere. Now I believe I digressed a bit. Now we come back to the pharma sector. Its strength, its capacity and capability. See, pharma sector, Indian pharma sector has come to be recognized as an important and reliable supplier, quality supplier of generic drugs at affordable price all over the world. Almost 10%, India, of the global demand, in volume terms, India meets. And Indian, I think, export of pharma product in terms of value is almost 1.4. So, we are number 3, if I'm not wrong, globally, in terms of volume, and 10th in terms of value. And I think everybody knows, it's a common knowledge, that India, has the maximum number of US FDA approved labs. But I have no harm in admitting that this sector has been what it has been because of government support, and has been a kind of product of the protected patent regime also. India has been following that process patent regime, and we were very good at it. The molecules developed by MNCs, we were able to reverse engineer and make the same product, complying the requirement of process patent. But then the entire world was viewing us as kind of a very stealer of technology, and that, is some kind of misinformation campaign has always been launched, against Indian farmers. Maybe because they feel threatened, I do not know. But another point that I would like to mention actually is that whatever criticism may be there, but today even developed world, on account of the fiscal problems that any country faces and the growing needs, healthcare needs, if they need to evolve some strategy to address healthcare, they will have to fall back upon generic drugs. There is no alternative. That is the strategy. So anyway, we were following process patent regime. Indian Patent Act was very much suitable for reverse engineering, but then every honeymoon has to have an end, and so it happened. Came WTO and then TRIPS, Trade Related Intellectual Property Rights, and we were kind of forced to basically amend the Patent Act, and I think it is 2005 that we amended Patent Act, And now the situation is that any drug patented, whether new from now on, or any drug which has been patented on after, I think, 95, will have to be recognized by India. So yes, generic drug is our strength, admitted. But then if you want to really grow, if you want to move on the higher trajectory, probably we have to move beyond that, and we will have to do some kind of, there has to be some kind of change in mindset, and there has to be some kind of serious effort to develop our R&D. So one of the strategies that we need to follow is to basically revive our R&D setup. Now, Indian pharma companies, Ranbaxy or Dr. Reddy's lab, if you see, they are the ones who invest maximum in R&D. But it is somewhere in the range of 5 to 10% of their revenue. Now, this is peanut. If you draw a comparison with MNCs like Pfizer, you will be astonished to know that the Pfizer's this R&D budget is more than the aggregate revenue of all the pharma companies of India. That is how it happens. Our spending is very less. And how it helps, I'll tell you. See, it's not that Indians haven't done it. You have Lupin here. They hold more than 1,000 patents. It may sound very surprising, but that's fact. And you see, their revenue has I think from 2009 to 2013 has grown at the rate of 25%, annually. Similarly, all I'm trying to prove is that R&D does help. Similarly, Tata Motors, they started investing in R&D. And the R&D spending in Tata Motors from 2007 to 12 was at the rate of 16%. And their, profitability and revenue grew by 32%. So there is a clear-cut linkage between the R&D expenditure and your profit earning. So industry friends have got to take a note of this, that investment in R&D, it may not give you immediate short-term results, but it is bound to give you long-term results. Now India, in terms of innovations, we rank very poorly. Very poorly. See, we claim to have a very large scientific and technical manpower, but our patent filing, if you see the record, it's abysmal. In 2013, total number of patent files filed in India was around 10,711 or something. Whereas China was the top one, filing around 7 lakh patents. Where 11,000 and 7 lakhs, you look at the comparison. And forget about China. They have outstripped us in every area. See, a country like Australia, which has a population of not more than 2% of that of India, they had more patent filing than India. So we need to be serious about R&D. Our global innovation, WIPO releases every year, that global innovation data. And then we were 68th in rank. And this year we slid down to 82nd. Let us look at something else. Bloomberg has released, they have carried out a study of some 50 innovative economies. We rate 45th there. In innovation density, I think we are 38th. So there is a lot that we need to do. We need to catch up. And we need to believe that R&D actually is the answer if you really want to move ahead. Generic is one area where that is our USP. We should continue to build on that. Because Indian pharma sector has built on its strength to basically been able to cater to the needs of vast population of our country, providing them drugs at an affordable price. That strength we should continue to have, and we should consolidate on that. But we need to move beyond that. We need to spend in R&D, and there is no other answer. Now, what are the strategies, challenges that Indian pharma industry faces? Lots of them. Most importantly, our access of pharma products to China, is continues to be, faced with lots of obstacles. Chinese authority, and I believe with deliberate design, they delay the registration of Indian pharma products for years. It takes around 2-3 years. and they have strange requirements like they want that you should have clinical trial done in China, which many Indian pharma manufacturers, feel apprehended not to do. Then we face a lot of non-tariff barriers in pharma exports to Japan. There is another problem, that there is a conscious and vicious maligning campaign being run by many vested interests in many countries that India's export of generic products basically is in utter violation of intellectual property laws, which is bad, which is not correct. They are questioning our quality as well. Now our answer is that if US is the biggest importer of our product, almost 32% I believe, then we do not need to answer anybody about our quality. We do not need anybody else's certificate. If you can sell your drug to a market like USA, which is the biggest consumer by huge margin, why do we need somebody else's certificate? But the problem is that we need to create an awareness campaign. And Government of India, Department of Commerce, they have worked out on a program to launch awareness about Indian pharma sector in Latin America, in Africa, and in South Asia. Then government has also created a mechanism where Indian drug regulators and industry can interact with US FDA, because some of our known Indian drug manufacturers did face a lot of penal action from US FDA. So that is the way we have to go about. Another point that is relevant is that we depend largely on a single source called China for our drug and API. That has to change. And government of the day is very alert and active about that. In the Make in India initiative, they want that all the public sectors of these drug API manufacturers are going to be revived. Because we need to be self-reliant. Imports are not necessarily bad, but it is always better to be self-reliant. Because any change in policy on the part of China can harm our drug industry. And we have to, so that is one. Second, I think what we need to do is we need to, kind of build on the cluster-based approach, which is applicable for so many other sectors, including pharma sector. Cluster-based approach, what happens basically, the spendings that we do in infrastructure, that those costs can be shared. And then it is a good peer effect. It's like teaching a boy in a reputed school with good peer group. So what happens, there is a kind of inherent healthy competition. And then you can replicate the best business practices of one. You can say infrastructure like warehousing or power. See, in a place like Jamshedpur, Tata Nagar, a group of industries, they not only share the infrastructure, they sometimes share the labor also. So we will have to devise this mechanism to kickstart and probably, take the drug pharma sector to the next level. That is the answer. And we need to there are other initiatives, like we are talking about, say you could have some taxes not being rebated or transaction costs, being very high. We know almost that 19 to 21% cost disability the Indian export faces. But most of the issues are going to be shortly addressed. I'll tell you how, because once GST comes into place, all the taxes which go unrebated will get removed. Your delays and paper costs are getting minimized with Government of India digitization move. So everything is being addressed. The point is that the industry has to come up to the expectation of government and vice versa, and we have to join hands together and take pharma to the next level. Thank you.